Good morning. Today is July 11th, and we're in First Chronicles 11 today, just for a few minutes. And we've finally come to the end of the long list of genealogies that begin the book of First Chronicles. And it's a major hurdle to get over. I know that, and can be dry and boring for us a little bit. I think there's purpose in that, as we've seen yesterday when we talked about it, day before yesterday when we talked about it. But one of the things I also wanted to just talk about a bit is the relationship between First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles. Because when we come to Chronicles, it seems like what's being done here is just a recap of what's happened in those earlier books, and so we wonder why are we reading this a second time. However, if we look at it closely, Chronicles is actually quite a bit different than Samuel and Kings. It has a lot of the same events, and actually some parts of it are word for word the same. However, the purpose and intention of the author and his relationship to his audience is much different than what we have in First and Second Samuel and First and Second Kings, in my understanding at least. So I think it's helpful to understand that Chronicles was written during the exile while the people were sitting in Babylon, and there's an intention even at that point. They know that the temple has been destroyed, that Judaism is probably changed forever, and even if they do go back from exile, it's going to be much different than it had been before. And much about that is good because they don't want to repeat the same mistakes as in the past, the idolatry and the wickedness that led them into exile in the first place. And so the author of Chronicles, which could be Ezra, although it goes beyond his lifetime and there are some things that are outside of that, but maybe he was the impetus behind it. Maybe he is the one who kind of got it going. But maybe he even wrote a large portion of it. But he's looking back towards that kingdom and thinking, okay, so when we go back, if we go back, what do we need to do differently? And so there are some things that he emphasizes, and especially the temple itself is a big emphasis here, which it wasn't so much of an emphasis in First and Second Samuel and Kings, although of course we see Solomon building the temple there. But it seems that a central concern of the writer of the chronicler, writer of the Chronicles, we could call him a chronicler, that the temple be rebuilt and the temple worship be reestablished, and so he's gonna focus a lot on that. But he's also going to take out some of the things that are offensive about the life of David. For instance, you don't see David and Bathsheba in the book of Chronicles. That's just kind of skipped right over. But you do see an emphasis in Hezekiah, just the story of that, of all that happened during Hezekiah's reign. So there's a bent towards the positive that really happens in Chronicles. And it's, I think, not meant to erase the past, not meant to pretend that it never happened. It's just to show, okay, we know that the past happened, but now what do we need to do in order to reestablish the monarchy when we go back and reestablish righteous temple worship and relationship to the world around us? And so some of those things are whitewashed in a sense out of Chronicles, but there's a purpose behind it. It's an encouraging book to try to help those who are thinking about going back to Israel after exile in their quest to do that and to reestablish something that was good. So I think we need to understand that in Chronicles when we come across it. It's not just a repetition. It's it's an encouragement. It's a exhortation to do better when we go back into the land.